Well, good morning, everybody. Robert Phoenix here, broadcasting to you live at 9:04 Central Standard Time in Fredericksburg, Texas, where we have some gray skies. Yesterday was so beautiful. One of the best days in recent memory. Blue skies, high 70s, place you want to be in a late October day. What's going on? What's happening out there? Just going to hey, good morning. Good morning, Miss Judy. How are you? Just going to sort of wait for people to kind of show up and assemble and get in that chat room so we can have our little party. Our little party. You know, this is what I call the power coffee party, the power coffee hour. This is what it's about. You know, I have my power coffee in the morning. Maybe you have your power coffee. This is the power coffee party. I think we're going to start a new political group here, the Power Coffee Party. It's going to take the nation by storm. It's going to take the world by storm. Power coffee drinkers, not just coffee drinkers, power coffee drinkers. That's right. We've got coffee and protein, beef collagen. Hi, Joe. We've got MCT oil and maca. We've got goat butter in our power coffee. So this is the Power Coffee Party. We get together every day here at 15 Minutes of Flame. So how is everyone? Good morning, Beth. She's got her power coffee ready to go. I can see it right there. She's got the power coffee icon. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I've already had my cup. It was good. I didn't put as much as I put into it. I ran out of maca. So it's the beef cacao collagen, the coffee, the butter, the coconut oil, and I've got this Chinese herb. I don't know the name of it. Bee something. It's like some sort of bee byproduct or something like that. It looks like who knows? Chinese could be ground up bees for all I know. I don't know, but it's supposed to be good for your tonifying. It's a tonifying herb. So I guess we're going to do a little bit of a follow-up from yesterday's show, just a little bit of a follow-up and kind of jump into where we are today. Another very interesting news day awaits us. On this day, the day before Halloween, the veils are thin. The veils are thin. Does anybody actually go out and celebrate Halloween by any chance? Do people still dress up? Out of the three wonderful people in the chat room, do any of you dress up at all? By any chance? Question mark. What about kids coming around to your place for trick or treat? You still hand out candies? For me, Halloween was always a mixed bag. There are times I had great Halloweens, and there are other times I had Halloweens that were, I had one Halloween. Wow. I usually do, even if nope, don't dress up. Hello, Lori. How are you today? Miss Lori. I had a Halloween experience one time. God, I wonder if I don't know if it's for public consumption. I've had a few Halloween experiences, maybe not for public consumption. But it was a Halloween night, and there was a big concert in Oakland, and I went to it. And let's just say the scales tipped a little bit. Had to leave the concert. There were too many things going off in my brain. Joe, I'm staying in to do my own ritual honoring ancestors' death rebirth ceremony. It's a good thing to do. I think that's meaningful. They say the veils are thin during this time. The light's changing. We're going into a dark, really, we're entering into the dark phase. And the light changes and the energy changes. So I think the veils are fairly thin. I think my best Halloween experiences were with my kid and having costumes and the stuff that he did when he was young. That was really fun. We had a really good time. All right, so shall we get into today's Today's news. First of all, just a follow up, that shooting that occurred at the school in North Carolina. You can tell that's a real shooting because the media hasn't really reported on it all that much. There was probably some kid who got a hold of a gun or had a gun and decided he was going to take out another kid or teach another kid a lesson. Who knows, man? Who knows? Adolescence is a tricky place, especially if you're adolescent and you're taking meds or you're taking Ritalin or Adderall or whatever, right? You know, the cocktail in the teenager's head these days is, you know, quite suspicious. I remember seeing some photos on Facebook. A friend of mine who lives here in Fredericksburg posted some photos on her Facebook page. And they were photos of camp, kids going to camp. And when you check in, there was a whole kind of section for kids who had meds or something they had to take. And she took a picture of like all these boxes that were set aside for these kids with their meds. She said it was just freaky, enormous. Freaky, enormous. Like all these kids were just, you know, popping all these meds. You wonder why some people go off the rails sometimes. It's really a sad state of affairs. Kale Har says there was no trick-or-treat in UK. When I was younger, it suddenly started like a meme. Yeah, I think we brought that to the rest of the world. It's another one of the great gifts we brought to the globe. Trick or treat. My kid was so into candy. Remember one year I tossed his candy out. I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So I think the shooting in North Carolina was probably a regular shooting. And you can tell because the mainstream media has just not picked up on it. David Hogg has not been, I think, really aggressive on his Twitter page. You know, we look back on March for Our Lives, and I really feel like March for Our Lives was a march for voters. Let's get these, 17, 18-year-old kids who are in high school getting ready to graduate. Let's get them registered. Let's get them out to vote because we want to, turn their heads around. We want to show them that they have power. It's going to be another meme, not a meme, but, one of these actions, that divides and conquers. That's, the youth against the older generation, right? Age versus youth. That's a 1960s canard, by the way. We call these social canards here on 15 Minutes of Flame. I thought the Irish brought it here. They carve turnips instead of pumpkins in Ireland. Maybe. That sounds like something that's doable. And what I'll do is I'll bone up on my Halloween trivia, my Halloween insights for tomorrow, so we can have an enlightened discussion about Halloween. So there are a couple of things happening on the news. Hey, Jennifer, what's going on? There are a couple of things happening on the news front today. Apparently, the Caravan is getting closer and closer and closer to the border. And apparently, Trump, who is the master hotel builder, is going to start to put up 10 cities. How do you feel about that? That it's kind of an interesting move in some ways. Like, I think there are people on the, what do I give kids on Halloween, Robert? I give them advice, Paula. I give them advice. They come to my door, they look for candy, and I give them advice. And they usually walk away feeling really ripped off. No, I don't. For the last few years, I've been living in apartment living, and there's not a lot of trick-or-treating that goes on in apartment life. There's just not a lot. So I don't really give kids anything. If I did have a house and I did have to give out candy, I would probably give out really good candy. I wouldn't skimp. I give them good candy. Now, I wouldn't necessarily give them like healthy candy because in the sea of shit that they'll be eating, my healthy candy wouldn't matter much. But I'd give them really good shit candy. Curious, 15 minutes of flame, not of. Okay, well, of. So I have a website called 15 Minutes of Flame, which is active, but I haven't really done much with it. And I wanted to get 15 minutes of flame, OF, but it was not available. So 15 minutes of flame, OV, was. So you can, you know, attach any kind of meaning you want to it. There's just a way for me to get a URL. You know, sometimes life works out like that, right? Like the owl over here in my left-hand corner. You know, I like owls. I think they're cool. They're cool animals. They're very interesting, you know, because it's a consort of Athena, or, you know, a symbol of Baphomet. I don't care. I like an owl. So sometimes things are, what I'm doing is I'm reassigning the value of the symbol. That's what I'm doing. Back in the day, apartments were great. You could hit more and quickly. Oh, Paul, man, she had her candy strategy down. Hit those apartments. That's tactical. One of the best Halloweens ever had involved throwing eggs. I got in an egg fight one time. It was great. Yes. My shoulder, there it is, man. It's my totem. You know what that owl is for? That owl is for like farming and scaring away crows. Apparently crows don't like plastic owls. They freak out. I have two of those owls sitting on posts around my place to keep pregnancy. There we go. I think Paul's right on it. Hey, so I wanted to talk about this Trump thing. And it's really fascinating because some people think that he's having a very weak and tepid response. You know, here's a story. I'm going to read you the story. This is from Fox News. Let's get into some news today. Trump says caravan migrants are wasting their time. What does the Donald have to say? The Trump spoke to the Ingram angle hours after the Pentagon announced it would deploy some 5,200 troops to the southern border in what the commander of U.S. Northern Command described as an effort to harden the southern border by stiffening defenses at and near legal entry points. When they are captured, we don't let them out, Trump told host Laura Ingraham. We're not letting them out. We're not catching, we're not releasing, we're not letting them into this country. What are they going to do with them? Are they going to live in 10 cities forever? Is this Donald Trump's new ploy to have a real estate development down at the end? I mean, think about this for a moment. Think about it for just a moment. I mean, it could be a real estate developer's dream, right? What if you combined Agenda 21 and the migrant crisis, and you created an Agenda 21 mega smart city that these people could live in just on the other side of the border? And then they could be on that universal life income that Mark Zuckerberg and all the social Marxists and the social engineers are promising. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Just keep them right there, and they're a smart mega city. Trump can build it. And I don't know what they'll do. They'll perform some function, I suppose. But I think that could be a very interesting solution. You just build these Agenda 21 cities along the border, let them go there, let them populate them. You think of all the investment, right? Think of all the investment that companies like Dell or Google or Raytheon or any of the high-tech companies that are involved in the Agenda 2030 project. You just build them right along the border. You can have all kinds of infrastructure, all kinds of money. They go there. They've got a nice life. They get educated. They get on an inoculation program, all the viruses and bacteria and wonderful diseases that unfortunately they have accumulated, get worked out of them. You know, you've got this whole new sort of strip, right? It's like a giant Agenda 2030 strip mall, smart city along the border, and then you embarrass the hell out of the Mexicans, the Mexican government. Like, why couldn't you? Look at me. I solve problems. See, there's a solution there. Give them their own Agenda 2030 strip mall country. A country within a country. A temporary autonomous zone. What do you think of that, people? What do you think of that? Affordable housing. Good observation. Howdy, mischief makers. Did you see the photo of Trump with the Cobra staff? I know, right? Isn't that wild? He's got that kid. He's got the Cobra staff. I mean, man, Trump he's the master of symbolism. Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think if they could just make an entire, maybe the 10th city is really the beginning of this. Maybe we're really in a revolutionary, evolutionary phase to do something with the migration problem. Give them their own 2030 strip mall smart city, right? There you go. What, you know, here you go. Look who's here. Speaking of smart, here he is. I think when my voice reaches a certain timbre, he jumps in. He jumps and says, okay, I'm ready for this. Let me continue to read this about Trump. Here we go. Trump also said the administration would build 10 cities to house any asylum seekers who have joined the caravan. We're going to put tents up all over the place, the president said. We're not going to build structures and spend hundreds of millions of dollars yet. We're going to have tents, and they're going to be very nice, and they're going to wait, and if they don't get asylum, they get out. Well, where do they go if you're not? What do you mean get out? You're not going to release. I mean, you're going to release them at some point if they don't get asylum. I mean, I actually think it's a pretty interesting idea. A lot of people want to have a show of force. I think that's wrong. I think a show of force could be really violent, and it's not a good look. The optics are terrible. I actually think what Trump is doing is smart and interesting because, number one, it deflects from his critics to say that, well, you know, he's being cruel. No, he's finding potentially temporary situations. And guess what? He gets to weed out people. He gets to figure out if people are really on the immigrant side, or maybe they're not really true immigrants. Maybe they're not really Salvadorans. If they are Salvadorans, they might be MS-13, or who knows, they could be from North Africa. Clearly, there's a lot of people who have joined the caravan who are not, either from Guatemala, Belize, El Salvador, Mexico, right? There are other people that are hanging out, making their way. So this is actually a really smart idea. And a lot of people think it's just ridiculous because he's not doing anything. No, I think it's actually, in a lot of ways, brilliant. Because you get to find out who people are. And if you find somebody in there who's actually a spy, or somebody who's really clearly an agent provocateur, you've got them. You can figure out who they are, what they're doing, where they're coming from, why they're here. Anyway, I think it's the best situation for a bad situation. Because what we don't need is we don't need more bloodshed. We don't need more people, with bullets. Are you kidding me? What would the left do with that? No, I think it's a good idea. Now it's going to be interesting because there are Americans down there who have rifles, and they're looking out. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Army interfaces with a lightly sort of organized militia. That'll be very interesting. So here's what Trump says again. We're going to put tents up all over the place, the president said. We're not going to build structures and spend hundreds of millions of dollars. We're going to have tents. They're going to be very nice. They're going to wait it out. They don't get asylum. They get out. That's the part that's a little tricky. Where do they go? Well, we're going to send you back. Well, why? So you can come back again? The president repeatedly has raised the alarm about the first migrant caravan approaching the U.S., which contains an estimated 4,000 people. A second caravan with an estimated 600 migrants has been picking up steam and marked by violence. About 600 migrants in the second group tried to cross the bridge from Guatemala to Mexico on Moss Monday. The riverbank standoff with Mexico police followed a more violent confrontation Sunday when the migrants used sticks and rocks against the officers. One migrant was killed Sunday night by a head wound. The cause is unclear. What else do we have here? Many gang members and some very bad people are mixed into the caravan heading to our south border. Trump tweeted Monday morning, "Please go back. You will not be admitted into the United States unless you go through the legal process. This is an invasion for our country military. Our military is waiting for you." Well, just curious, how do you guys feel about this? Just out of curiosity. Let me just take your temperature. Are the troops reserves? New Yorkers move to Mexico border. House prices soar. I love it. It's going to be the new hotspot, man. Think of the land prices down there. They're cheap. They're rock bottom. You're getting at the ground level. It's like Baltic Avenue in Monopoly. Here's another interesting story. Apparently, Google is in a bit of hot water. there's a guy by the name of Andrew Rubin, and he is being given a $90 million payout because Andrew Rubin was accused of having illegal relations or sexual relations, forcing a woman at Google to perform oral sex on him. He's getting a $90 million payout to leave. So apparently, the people at Google, the people that work there, are so incensed about this that they're going to walk out. Here's a really interesting statistic. Google has had like 48 people terminated over the last 2 years for sexual misconduct. What the hell is going on with Google? What is happening with Google? This great shining example of how we're supposed to be living from a very enlightened perspective. Do no evil. That's their maxim. That is their maxim. Hey, listen, boys and girls, I hate to do this. I got to break up the party today because I actually have a very early client. So it's not quite 15 minutes of flame, but it's 25 minutes of flame. I will be back tomorrow for Halloween. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on Wednesday the 31st. Have a great day.